Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of CodeCap Conversations. And today with me, I have my friend from school, Biswarup, who has done something awesome in GSoC, and we will talk about that. But before that, what is this CodeCap Conversation? This is a YouTube show, you can call it, though no one watches it. Uh, where I call in interesting people who have done some interesting stuff and listen to their experiences, talk about their stories, and take something helpful advices from them so that we can also, follow their footsteps and do something amazing. So, hey Bisharup, how are you?
I'm very fine. Hello.
Hey
Yep.
man, hey. Man, let's start with something very interesting. Let's start with after school ended, you went into college. How did this open source thing start with you? I mean, in school we didn't don't have much idea, or we don't really write that much of code to open source. In college, how did it start, this open source thing?
Okay, so like the main motivation, like from my own experience, like the main motivation behind me contributing to open source was that like when I realized that like I wanted to work on projects that are like operating on a very large scale and that projects that have like a very large user base. So one way is to you like go and do an internship in a startup or in a company that already has a very huge existing code base, or like you can like alternatively you can go and simply start contributing to any open source project that is having like a very huge code base. So like that was the main motivation, you can tell, like my will to like kind of contribute to a code base that is having like millions of users like all across the globe. So that was the like point number one. And like the second point can be regarding like code quality. Like if you like when we code on a code on a personal project, we write like there is no one to like show us the right path or the right
Hmm.
like how to write code in a good way, like how what are the steps that one should follow so that the code quality is maintained or the code quality is up to the mark. But when you are like working on an open source project, there are people those who are there to like review your code. Like whatever code you write, every line will be thoroughly reviewed by the like by people from the entire like the community, and those people they're like very experienced. So like one like the second thing is a huge learning curve. Like you learn a lot of things, like how to actually write good quality code that are scalable and maintainable and that are very much modular and can go hand in hand with an already existing code base. So like basically these two things, like the will to work on projects that are used by million, and second the like the will to learn how to write a good quality code. So these are the two main things, like the motivation behind like me starting with open source. So if you ask me like how exactly I started with open source, like the story of me coming to open source, it is like there was this organization called Casbin, casbin.org. So I was randomly like browsing through a few organizations to see like which all organization I can like contribute to. And like basically I was working with React.js and JavaScript
And
ecosystem.
this was in
So
which
I
year?
found this was like in like third year, you can tell, like third
Okay.
year end and beginning of fourth year.
Okay.
So I already, yep. So one thing to note is that like I already had some experience of working with JavaScript.
Hmm.
Like I was interning at like Pratilipi.com and this upgrade.com as well. So like from there I already had like some kind of experience with like the JavaScript ecosystem. So I thought to like implement it like and gain like some more experience in the open source ecosystem. So that is the reason like I was like going through a few projects where I can contribute, and then I came across this catchbin.org. So they are like a authentication library written in Golang. So I thought I saw that they also had a dashboard project for React.js. So
Okay.
like they were building a dashboard for the library using React.js, and then I thought that this like I checked their issues, and I like and I felt like there are a few things that I can like fix in the dashboard. So like that was the like the initial motivation. I yeah, one very important thing that like motivated me even more was that I saw the founder and his profile, and the founder was like he had a PhD in computer science and was like a very senior engineer in Facebook. So like that definitely motivated me to like work with him under his guidance. So like I started contributing to Casbin.org. I made a few PR, and a few of them were accepted after like code review and
Wow.
code resubmission. So that is like the initial boost you can tell.
So any kid in college who want to start out with open source, like for example me, when I open a GitHub repo of an established project, I frankly get scared. I mean, there's
Yeah.
millions of lines of code, and I don't know where to start. So where should one start when they open a code base?
Okay, so I would suggest that before even opening a code base, like again, that is like my personal suggestion is to like be aware of the tech stack in which the particular code base is written. So suppose you
Cool.
are opening a Android project, opening an Android open source project. So you should be like at least well aware of the fundamentals of Android, so that like you should be well acquainted with the tech stack in which the particular like open source project is built on. So that is the step zero I would tell. And the second thing and the most important thing that many of people like kind of skip it and directly like start jumping directly, like instead of directly jumping into the code, the step one should be like actually running the entire code base locally and trying it out and trying to like check out all the features and running it locally. So instead of like just like running it in the hosted, like let's say Casbin.org was there in Casbin.org. So like instead of running it there, like I would always recommend to like run everything locally to check out how everything is working, so that you get a like a brief of how to set up the entire project, the directory structure and everything. And then comes the like the second stage, that is like actually understanding the like actually understanding the entire project component wise. So let me just give you an example. Like when I was working like in Pratilipi, like when I was working in Pratilipi.com, they had like the entire code base was written in Vue.js and Vuex, and that had like millions of lines of code. Like there were like at least 5 full-time engineers those who have been working on that particular code base like for the last 3-4 years. So and
Correct.
I was just an intern in second year, like in the end of second year. So I had like almost negligible experience in handling a big code base. So what I did was that I
Also,
literally
Vue
like
was
took
new
up.
for you, I think. Vue.
Yep, exactly. Vue.js was like totally new for me.
Yeah.
So what I did was that like the first week I just spent on learning Vue.js. Like I saw a bunch of YouTube videos and all to like get myself acquainted with like what is Vue.js, how to work with Vue.js, how to work with Vuex. And then like after that 1 week, like the second week I spent mostly in like reading the code, like reading the code as in component wise. Like you should not, like if you have that mentality, like you need to understand the 100% of the code base, then like you can never like
Correct.
actually understand the whole of it. So
Correct.
what I suggest is that to pick a particular component and then read that particular component and like try to understand how the like how that particular component, only that particular component is working. So what I did is that I simply took a pen and a paper and I literally like wrote down the like what is happening, like all the like step one. Like if you have worked with UX, like it fires like I don't exactly remember the steps, but it's something like in step one it fires a reduce, like it fires an action. Then the action like manipulates the state, and then the state like store, and then the changes are shown back into the UI. So like I literally took
Something
a,
like Redux.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Something very similar to Redux. Like all
Yeah.
these steps, like I literally took a pen and a paper and I was like writing down that this particular function is doing this thing, this particular function is doing this particular thing, and this particular function is doing this. So it was obviously not easy, and it is very common to get like totally overwhelmed by like seeing the like so many new things in such a short duration. But like if you like persist and like if you consistently try to read the code base again and again and try to like break the like entire project into components, and those components into actual like functions, like which function is doing what thing, then I think it becomes like much more easier to deal with it in the long run.
That's really cool. Now we'll come to GSoC, and that's why you have
Yeah.
everyone has clicked on the video. That's the clickbait. So let's talk about GSoC. So um, most of us in college, we know about GSoC. So I'll start with a kind of a different question. Like, um, the colleges we were in, those were not exactly the IITs or the NITs, right? So one does not most of these colleges, one does not get a very vibrant coding environment. So how did you first get into that in your practice, in your in working towards your goals, in becoming a good developer?
Okay, so that's actually a pretty good question. I would tell, like, and that is definitely like not many juniors, like when people like they just take admission, that question is something that hits them like in the very beginning,
Yeah,
like how to be a good developer, like even when you are like from a tier 2 or a tier 3 college.
exactly.
So what I would tell, like for me personally, it was always like having a group of friends like who are like equally enthusiastic, equally interested into like programming and like programming and development. So that is the thing that I would suggest. Like try to find friends, those who have the same interest, and try to like form a schedule with them. Like let's say, like what I did was that like initially like every night, like after like from the evening to the night, like
Hmm.
after our normal college classes, we used to like come and meet in our hostel room, and then we used to like develop a side project, or we used to like work on a particular thing. So it is more about forming a group of people those who are equally like enthusiastic about programming, and then doing programming or doing like whatever you like in that particular group and integrate that thing in your day-to-day schedule. So that is what I can suggest. And if you ask like if another perspective to look into this is like right now everybody is connected using the internet, right?
Correct.
So it is not necessary that your like the friends should be like your roommate. It can be like anyone across the globe. Like I did some
Right.
like in open source, like as I said, like the person I was working with, he was somewhere in France. Like from he was working from France, and I was in India. So like it does not matter uh, like the group that you are like the group like your coding community, it need not to be like very much local. Like they need not to be like your roommate or your next door neighbor, but it can be like anyone across the like globe, as long as you are like connected and you daily check onto each other, like what is the progress of each other.
That's actually really good. So let's come to GSoC now. So I want to know that how does one, someone in college, how do they start applying for GSoC? What do they really have to do, and what's the process? What's the journey like?
Cool. So, like if you ask me about the roadmap of GSoC, so it is pretty similar to what I talked about in open source. Like step one is like you gain some experience, or like gain some knowledge or have some knowledge in a particular tech stack. Then you find out organization that are working in that particular tech stack. So suppose if you are into Android, then you will go and find out organizations that are working on Android,
Hmm.
and then you go to their GitHub repository, download the project, run the project locally, and then you find out the issues in that project. Like although you need not to find out the issues, like most of the issues will be already mentioned. So either you can solve any pre-existing issue, or if you like find out any issue by chance, then you can report that issue and then solve it and submit a pull request to that. So it's basically like you running the projects that are of your interest and of your tech stack, and then you contribute to them. It can be contribution in terms of like feature development, bug fixes, or anything, and then you like fix that particular bug or develop that feature and send your code as a PR. And then
Hmm.
like that is the like the I would tell like the initial step of contributing to a particular organization. Then once like you are familiar with the organization, you can like start talking with the mentors to see what are the GSoC like let's say GSoC 2021, like what are the GSoC 2021 ideas and in which idea you can contribute. So like to sum it up, and like in the final stage you just write a proposal describing like what all contributions you have done to the community so far, what all contribution you will be making in the GSoC, and like a detailed description of how we will be implementing that particular GSoC project idea. that you will be working over the course of the duration. So like to like shorten it up and to brief it, step one, like learn a tech stack. Step two, contribute to the organization uh, in which you are interested in. Step three, write a good proposal of the idea of the project, like of the project idea. And step four is like submit your proposal to the mentor. That is like the very brief overview of the entire process
So the process is
of
pretty
the application.
simple, but just following, executing
Yep,
the
yep,
process is a bit.
yep, exactly.
It will take a bit
Yep,
hard work.
yep,
Now,
yep,
as you're talking about interest and the projects you're interested in, I remember in school you were pretty interested with space. I remember you taking part
yep,
in the
yep, yep,
NASA competitions and even getting the honorable mention or something. And I was one of those naysayers who were like, क्यों कर रहा है भाई, नहीं होगा भाई, मत कर. You're wasting your time. And then one day he was like, hey, I actually got a I actually got a special
yep.
mention. I'm like, what? Really?
With
दोस्त जब
those 3D diagrams
या राइट, दोस्त जब
that
फेल
look
करता है
like
तो बुरा
ants.
लगता है, लेकिन दोस्त जब फर्स्ट आता है तो और बुरा लगता है. so
Yep,
so and your organization in GSoC was on the
yep,
similar lines, Open Astronomy.
yep.
So let's talk about the
Exactly.
organization. How was the organization, and let's talk about that.
Okay, so like there is lot many things to just speak about the organization. So like let me just give you a small like story kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like I happened to meet a guy who was working in Google,
Yeah.
like in Google, I guess Google Hyderabad, and we were talking, and then he said like, what are the things that you look for in a job? And I said like I look for a job that pays me well, a
Hmm.
job that has a good work-life balance, and a job where I contribute, like my contributions are like very much meaningful and impactful, and also a job where my teammates are like pretty good, like have very good credential and have very good experiences. And then he said that like it is not possible for you to like get a job that fulfills all of these criteria. like like you need to compromise on like some point or the other, like no one is perfect. So that was his comment. But like after I worked with my organization, with my GSoC organization, I genuinely felt that all the criteria that I had in my mind, like my GSoC organization just met every single criteria. Like they
Really?
had a like they had a very very strong team. Like like I'm telling, I'm just giving you the credential of like one of them was like like a principal engineer at Twitch TV. Like he was working on Twitch TV as a principal engineer. Then like the other the org admin, she like discovered minor planets, and like she has like planets discovered on her name. So those were the type
Oh
of
my
people
god.
I was working with. The second thing is like
I couldn't
pay.
even discover a stone myself, and they are discovering planets.
Yep, yep. So like coming to the second point, like pay, it's okay. Like considering like the other like it's pretty decent, I would tell. The second thing is work-life balance. I was working like 20 to 30 hours a week, so
Ah,
that is
that's
also
cool.
like yeah, that's like pretty much very very decent, I would tell.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
fourth, yeah, like fourth point is like meaningful contribution. Like I think open source is all about meaningful contribution. Like your code getting open source and being used by like hundreds and thousands and sometimes even millions of people. So I think my organization and my experience, like it exactly matched all the criteria that I had in my mind as a like a perfect job opportunity or perfect experience, like job experience or internship experience.
So, like, I was asking, what
And
does Open Astronomy actually do? Like, what kind of
okay,
projects they're
okay.
involved in?
Okay, so that's like Open Astronomy is actually like it's like a group of organizations. Like Open Astronomy is like not one single organization. It's like a group of
Okay.
organization. The particular organization I was working under Open Astronomy is called DIRAC, that is Data Intensive Research in Astronomy and Cosmology.
Okay.
So let me. So what they do is like they have uh, they have this LSST, that is Large Synoptic Survey Telescope. So that telescope is like it takes around like 1 million images every night. Like every night it takes like images, and that size is of like in sometimes in TBs and sometimes even in petabyte. So they
Wow.
like go like every night, every single night, and then they like run like their own algorithms in those images to to find out any change of any position of a star or change of any asteroid. So suppose like an asteroid is coming towards the Earth, so like their telescopes have the ability to like detect the particular asteroid. Or like let's say you want to discover a planet, you can like go through all the images and check out all the images and be able to like figure out like try to discover new planets. So they in short what they do is that they take like think of it as like you are creating a map of the entire universe. So they created a real-time map of the entire universe. So that was like the like the project that they were involved in basically. So here, if you ask like my task particularly, so uh, yeah, so that is the like as I said, like they have very large data set, and on those data set they run this like their own algorithms or their own mathematical formulas and then derive something. So to run all these mathematical formulas and to run all these algorithms, they use this Apache PySpark cluster. Like it's like a you can think of it like for big data analysis, like all the analysis is run in this Apache PySpark cluster. So so like and these particular astronomers they use like they're normally like we code in like let's say VS Code or Sublime. So they like they use the entire Jupyter ecosystem like Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab, and so my main task was to like build a Jupyter Notebook extension using which you can like create the PySpark cluster on the click of a few buttons. So previously, what the astronomers used to do is that like you need to write like long cumbersome codes, like multiple lines of cumbersome code to start a PySpark cluster. But the extension that I built using that, you can like the entire idea to write code is converted to an extension that that can achieve it by just a few clicks. So you like select the configuration. Like let's say you want 4 GB RAM and then like let's say 4 core and 8 GB RAM. So you can select those values and you can just click the start button and that will automatically create a PySpark cluster either locally or even on Kubernetes. So that
Wow,
is what like I so
this is
like
actually
that was the basic.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I had to work on front end with JavaScript, back end with Python, and then Jupyter kernel with they had this IPython kernel, like kind of their own wrapper over the like Python wrapper over the kernel. So I work on like building a kernel extension, a front end extension, and a back end extension.
so did you
Like the
have any experience
yeah,
working with all these before, Jupyter and Spark and
nothing like absolute zero experience. I to be Jupiter, like the only Jupiter I knew about was the planet Jupiter. So yeah, but here the spelling was also different. It was
yeah,
Jupyter.
actually I learned from you just now that it's actually Jupiter, not Jupiter.
Yep,
I used to
yep,
call it
yep,
Jupiter till now. Thank you for telling it to me and
yep,
not and stopping
yep,
me from embarrassing myself.
yep.
All right, now let's talk about your daily work day. So, in an
Okay.
like, how is working in GSoC? Like, do you
Yep.
have meetings every day, or is it like regular office work, or how is it? I wonder how is it actually open source and kind of an internship, kind of an open source thing. How does it work?
Okay, so like I would tell like it is like not very much different from normal office. Just that like yeah, there are some obvious differences. But if you look into the like the structure of the day, then I would tell it is pretty similar to my other internship experience. Like so you simply here like the main issue is that we are like working totally remotely, right?
Yeah.
Like my like the people those who I'm working with, they are like mostly based out of like one of my mentor was working from Seattle, another one was like working from a country called Croatia. So like the main issue was that yeah, like the main issue was that I had to sometimes take very late
No one
night
from Romania
meetings.
though.
Oh man, come on.
if you want to know if you want to know what's up with Romania and what's the story with Romania, like the video and leave a comment, and probably Viswarup would feel like someday and reply back to you.
Okay.
So continue.
Yep. So like the yep. So the main issue I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, so there was, so one mentor was from Seattle, another one was from Croatia, and the main issue was that I had to sometimes take like very like late night meetings or sometimes very early morning meetings. So that was the only like kind of issue. But apart from that, like everything was like no pretty smooth. Like on every Monday we had one meeting, that is like where we yeah, like on every Monday night we had a meeting where we discussed like the goals of the week, and then like we wrote it down. Like it was like nothing fancy. We just simply wrote it down in a like Google Doc, and then from Monday to Thursday I used to work on those, and then on Friday we used to have the entire DIRAC meeting. So in DIRAC meeting is like where everybody from the entire DIRAC organization, along with my mentors and along with all the other engineers and astronomers, we used to have like a Zoom call. So that is like there sometimes I shared my updates and everyone from the team also shared their update. So you in Monday we set the goals, and by Friday we try to cover as many goals as possible.
Huh,
So that is the
that's
like the
good.
basic structure of the week.
That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about after you were done with GSoC.
Mhm.
Apart from the huge sum of money you got,
It's
which didn't come to me anyway in form of a party, but but other than that, what are the benefits that a student gets from open source and GSoC?
yeah. Okay, so see, like the first thing, as I told, like you get people, those who are there to like guide you to like showcase you which is a good quality code and which is a bad quality code. So as a student, we don't get that mentorship. Like even in top tier college, there are hardly any there are like hardly anyone to like exactly guide you on like how to write good quality code. So definitely, like working on open source helps you to become a better software developer in general. That is the like point number one. Point number two is you definitely meet so many people, and like that definitely adds on to your connection. Like just to give you an example, like the director of engineering of Amazon Alexa, like he was one of the mentors of like in the like the mentors of this DIRAC organization. So he used to like occasionally join the meetings, and like the day I posted like about DIRAC, like it was a like the day I posted about my GSoC experience on LinkedIn, and I tagged him, and he like sent me a connection request on LinkedIn. So
Wow.
like the director of engineering of Amazon Alexa, who is having like 20 years of experience inside Amazon, like he is sending me LinkedIn requests. So I think at that time, like I felt very like the power of networking, or like not networking, the power of like meeting new people. Like you never know whom you meet, and then like whom you meet and what opportunities that particular people has to share with you. So that is what I can tell like this as a second point. Like you meet a lot of people from very different backgrounds and very different like experiences, so that definitely enhances your network. Yep, so these are the two things, and apart from that, yeah, third and a very important thing, like you know how to like work in a remote collaborative environment. So like as I said, like we were miles, like thousands of miles apart. Yet we were like working in a very collaborative, like in a very collaborative way. Like we on every Monday, like as I said, sometimes we used to even have like the pair programming where I used to like share my screen, and then we
Wow.
used to like code on the same project. So it exactly felt like my mentors were like sitting just next to me, and then they were like helping me with the issues. So that
And
is what that is
this is
different.
happening across time
Yeah.
zones.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine, like you were here, like it's night. Someone is having like just morning, and someone is having evening time. So, like that is the like you just imagine about it. Like you're working with people all across the globe in different time zone in real time on a project that is going to affect the entire astronomy community. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that like that was like definitely like what sometimes you have those like moments in life when you feel like when you feel like very satisfied about what you are doing. So I would definitely tell like I kind of feel that kind of like intrinsic motivation or satisfaction.
And the sheer impact of what you're doing, processing trillions of bytes of data
If
to
I'm
find some
not doing like
asteroids.
just to
Yeah.
Yep, like just to be clear, like I am not doing that processing of
No, I
images,
mean,
and that is the
the
yeah,
organization. I mean the organization, and
yeah,
you're contributing to it.
yeah,
That's amazing. I feel very, very, astonished and very. I feel really good that people write so good code
yeah,
that has so much of impact, and they just give it for free for everyone to use
yeah.
and for everyone to see.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
what are your general thoughts on open source? Do you think that recently there is a lot of companies, even commercial interest on open source? Like we can see Microsoft, many open source companies are becoming very successful commercial companies like Gatsby is doing really good, and Vercel has a lot of open source footprint. So Red Hat too. So do you think, like, what do you think is the road ahead for open source, and do you think it's here to stay, or it's like a tech trend that started in the 80s 90s when it was like a backroom thing, and it's now really mainstream, and do you think it will again go to the back rooms and you know
So for open source, I don't think like it will go like the what you can call it like the popularity, like the popularity of open source. I'm very sure that it is like not going to die away, like at least in the upcoming few decades or so. Like
okay,
it is only going to increase, like it is only going to drastically increase. So that is what I like strongly believe. Like if you see, like to take any framework, like in the JavaScript ecosystem, I can think of React, Vue, and Angular. Like React and Vue, these are the like the top two trending open source frameworks that are there on GitHub. So you can see, and not only on GitHub, but these are like most widely used in the entire front end engineering like ecosystem.
correct,
So you can see like the tools that are used to build like millions of websites across all verticals, they are fully open source.
correct,
So what I think, like from this perspective, like thinking that the popularity will decrease, I don't think like it is going to happen in any period of time. You can see like even companies, they're like dedicating like a percentage of their team just for open source. Like for Google, they have like they are like they have a dedicated like they have a dedicated website that lists down all the open source initiatives of Google. So you can like check that. Same is with Facebook, same is with Uber, and same is with like all the big tech companies. So I think like it is not going anywhere. It is just only going to increase in popularity in the coming future.
great. I mean, so much insights into open source, like so Hacktoberfest is coming. What do you think about Hacktoberfest, and what should people do, maybe college or anyone who wants to start with
Okay.
open source? Hacktoberfest is a great starting point because they
Yeah.
give you free t-shirts to write some code,
Yeah.
even though the
Yeah.
t-shirts not always reach you, but
Yeah. Exactly.
but but what can a person do? This people are calling this Preptember, and to
Mhm.
chime into the hype, let's talk about a bit about what should be the remaining, how should people just go on with this Hacktoberfest thing.
Okay. So see, before we talk about the do's of Hacktoberfest, I think we should address the do nots of Hacktoberfest. So there are a few things that like people should absolutely not do. Like the first thing is like not to like contribute to just any project or just for the sake of contribution. Like I've seen that
or to
people,
make
they
your
just
or to make PRs on your own projects.
exactly. That is my point. That is what I was like trying to convey. Like sometimes people, they make one account, then they make another account, then in the second account they like upload some project, and then they make PR from one account to the other account. So like, what is the point of doing it? Like the Hacktoberfest, like the main goal is to like introduce students to the open source community, to the open source ecosystem. So like you should definitely, I'm not telling like you should go and like directly contribute to like any big very popular open source project that has a very high barrier of entry, but that does not mean that you should be like contributing to your own code base itself. Like I would suggest strongly to like go and find out projects that are that have like good beginner friendly issues, that have a somewhat smaller code base and somewhat easier to get started with. So, and then like try to contribute in that particular project. Like just don't contribute for the sake of contribution, but try to make at least try to get some learning out of the entire experience.
Great, because if there is no learning, there is no
Yeah,
use of
there
that
is,
T-shirt.
yeah, exactly, like what will you like? You can you can get t-shirt in like 100 rupees as well.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so Vishwarup, thank you for spending your time with us. Really appreciate it. Did you have fun?
Yeah, like it was very good, like talking and sharing my experience. Yeah, and
And
like the best thing is like I got to like talk with you like after I think 4 or 5, yeah, around
yeah,
4 years.
we are
So yeah,
talking via voice after a long time, and I also feel really good talking to him after so
yeah,
many years. He's not the
yeah.
same guy that he was in school. He's
I
even worse
want
now.
more.
And probably I'll do a second separate video where I'll talk about the stories with him, so that people know about the dark side of Vishwarup. So stay tuned for that. So, and for that you have to subscribe, leave a like if you like the video, and if even if you didn't like the video, leave a like because of Vishwarup's cap, uh, and comment what do you think, what did you didn't agree with, or what did you agree with, what did you like or what do you dislike. um, Suggestions are always welcome, even hate comments are welcome, because that gives us YouTube engagement. So that will be it for this video. Until next time.
Bye bye.